I was sitting in the emergency room and trying to figure out why I wasn't more torqued up or nervous or activated. And you know how sometimes you trick yourself and you're like, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm calm, but I'm really not calm. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. This was not that. I was truly calm. And I was thinking about why I wasn't freaking out. And I know why. And I know why. And I'm going to share with you why. And I'm going to share with you how to proactively, this is non-doctor supported, but how to proactively prepare your nervous system and regulate your nervous system and how to do it in a way that is so cool and so fun. You're going to want to do it every day, Podsters. So let's get started. Welcome to the Thrive Hive podcast, the place where success meets reinvention and nothing, I mean nothing, is off limits. I'm your host, Nancy Medoff, speaker, coach, best-selling author, and former corporate VP who knows firsthand what it means to leave a wildly successful career behind, to build a dream business and life, then blow it all up again when it's simply no longer enough. Here, we don't wait for permission to feel free. We talk about reinvention, aligned ambition, managing our energy, boundaries, and the power of surrounding yourself with the right women. This is not a networking group. It's not a therapy session. This is a space for elevated, honest conversations about business, life, and what it really means to thrive. So if you're ready to stop carrying it alone, ready to connect with women who get you, and ready to design what's next with clarity and confidence, come on in. This is your space. This is your time. Welcome to the Hive. What is up, Podsters? We are back. We are so back. Not only are we back, have I mentioned that we are in 68 countries? I can't remember if it was 67 or 68 the last time I shared those stats with you. Still completely blows my mind that people in 68 different countries are listening to this podcast. And you want to know why? Because of you, because you are sharing the love, you're talking about it, you're leaving reviews. If you haven't, please leave one. That will help us spread the word. It's because you're tagging me on the socials, and I just cannot thank you all enough, Podsters, for all of the support. We're growing because you're supporting, and thank you. So let's get into today's episode. This is really interesting because I try to time my podcast episodes with my weekly community newsletter, the Thrive Hive, which if you're not a part of the Thrive Hive yet, it's free. There's a link in the show notes. Grab a seat. I only email once a week, and it's usually, if I do say so myself, it's pretty good, pretty compelling. There's some good stuff in there. Anyway, I try to coordinate the podcast episode with what goes out in the community. That's not always possible. It's easier for everyone on my team. It's easier for me. For those of you who are a member of both communities, the podcast community and the Thrive Hive email community, it's just reinforcing the message, and it just makes sense. But I'm not doing that this week, and here's why. I have this really cool topic that I've been wanting to talk about for probably maybe 2 weeks. And here's what happens. I get all hot and bothered about a topic, and I say to myself, oh, I want to talk about this. And then my confirmation bias pulls in all these different data and facts. And I'm like, see, I knew it. I knew I should talk about it. And I get really excited about it. And one of two things happens. Either I record the podcast episode and it's epic and everyone loves it, or I don't for whatever reason. Either I procrastinate or it wasn't on the schedule or whatever the case may be. And then I come back to it. And by the time I come back to it to record it, I'm not quite as excited. I still think it's a great topic, but that energy isn't there. So let's think about if you're dying to go on a trip and you're talking about this trip. Let's say you want to go to Italy and you're talking about the trip to Italy and you're psyched about Italy and Italy, and everything's screaming Italy. You go to Home Sense and or Home Goods and there's an Italian candle. You see lemons everywhere, whatever. By the way, truth happened to me. But anyway, so you see this everywhere and you get excited. And then you don't really plan the trip to Italy. It's still out there, but you don't really plan it. And then a month later, you're like, yeah, okay, Italy, okay. Not as excited about it. So that's why I am recording this podcast today about the concept of the glimmer. Now, a glimmer is really a thing. I did not make this up. I wish I had because I really, really love this concept. So let's talk about what it is. A glimmer, I'm going to read you a definition because I don't want to mess it up. A glimmer refers to a small positive moment or sensation that brings a sense of calm, safety, or joy. These moments can be fleeting and often involve noticing something simple in your environment or an internal feeling that makes you feel good. It's the opposite of a trigger. So we all know that sometimes something happens in our environment, we know it's a trigger. Let's say physically you're allergic to something. Let's say you're allergic to pollen and the pollen comes down, that is going to trigger your allergies. Let's say you're allergic to your mother-in-law and your mother-in-law starts with you and that it's triggering. You get triggered. So a glimmer is the opposite of a trigger. And I really love it. So I'm going to tell you about what I think is the purpose of a glimmer and then I'm going to walk you through an experience, which is why I'm so excited about this episode. So, glimmers help regulate your nervous system and they foster a sense of safety and connection. Now, my glimmer experience didn't necessarily foster a sense of safety. I do find them to be grounding and they're just fantastic, joyful, and so easy. It's quick, it's easy, and you can find them in an instant. It is a micro moment that leads to a mood shift. Now I'm still reading this. So the physicalness, the physicality or the science behind this is when you experience a glimmer, it activates your vagus nerve, which is one of the main components of your nervous system or your parasympathetic nervous system. So basically when you recognize a glimmer, it is regulating your nervous system, which is very cool because when you're not regulating your nervous system, and I'm going to bring back Dr. Audra as soon as she answers my email, Dr. Audra, I'm going to bring her back and she's going to talk about how to regulate your nervous system. This is actually a thing. I never knew this until I went into business for myself. I mean, I knew I had a nervous system, but I didn't understand about an overstimulated nervous system and cortisol and I forget the other word. But how really you can really damage yourself if you're not paying attention to this. Anyway, so I want to tell you a little bit about my micro moment, my glimmer. Again, it could be anything. It could be smelling cut grass. It could be hearing a child laugh. It's something that brings you joy. And the difference here, this happens all the time, right? There are things in your day that bring you joy, probably every day. I would hope every day. The difference with the glimmer is that you recognize it. You stop, you recognize it for what it is, and you let yourself really feel it and acknowledge it. So couple things happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm getting to the whole reason why I'm really passionate about this. So I live in the Northeast, and for those of you who are with me for like 2 months, maybe we don't get a lot of sun. I mean, it's not, dark all the time, but there's really I think something changes with the sunlight. It's not as bright, it's not as beautiful and I'm not just saying that it's cold out. It's fine. There can be snow on the ground, but I seek the bright sun. So I got to pause for a minute, Podsters. So I got this new computer and I really think that I was raising, oh my goodness, I'm raising my hand and it sees me raising my hand. My computer sees me raising my hand and on the Zoom, it's raising its hand. That's a little freaky. Anyway, I digress. So I was in my kitchen. So I have a big farmhouse dining table in my kitchen room. That's what I would call it. It's a giant slab of wood. And this is not a bougie restoration hardware slab of wood. It is literally a slab of wood. I got it during the pandemic. It was a production company used these big, beautiful wood tables as displays. And unfortunately, this company was going out of business because people weren't having the big productions during COVID. And I saw it on Facebook Marketplace, borrowed a friend's truck, drove an hour to go get it. The dude who sold it helped me put it in the truck. I had no idea how I was going to get out of the truck. I had a friend come help me get it out of the truck, and then I stored it in my basement until I moved into my new house. The whole point of this story is that I think it's probably 92 inches. It's a very long table. Anyway, and there's only two of us, which is hilarious, but okay. So I like to sit at this table sometimes and look out at the woods and light a candle. Maybe I'll do my journal. Maybe that's how I'll plan my day. When we have dinner, that's what we're looking at. Anyway, so it's not very exciting in the winter. So the other morning, I was walking through my kitchen and I sat down at the table And it was a little bit before it was sunrise. The sun was rising, and I was just sitting there working, and it was light out. And all of a sudden, the sun came out from behind this big copse of trees. I just wanted to say the word copse because I read it in a book and I love that word. Anyway, it came out from behind these trees and started really shining in on me. And it was stunning. I mean, it was just this beautiful experience with all this sunshine. And I stopped what I was doing and I just kind of sat still for a minute and I let the sun kind of wash over me. And I just sat in it and I experienced it. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was probably a minute, not even. And and then I sat there for a minute and I was like, wow, that was really cool. And for some reason it just stuck with me. Now I could have if this had happened on a different day, I could have just looked up and said, "Oh, that's kind of cool. The sun's out," and just kept going. But I didn't. I stopped and I recognized it. Then the next probably 3 or 4 days later, I was sitting at that table or standing at the table and I looked out and it was raining. It was drizzling a little bit. The sun was out, but it wasn't out really well. It was kind of misty. And I opened the door and I stepped outside for a minute. Now, as I mentioned, I live in the woods and the wind when it runs through the woods is pretty incredible. I just love it. I was never a woods person. I was never really a wind person. I just love how it sounds. And I stepped outside and the wind was kind of whispering through the woods and there was just a little bit of mist coming down. It was just beautiful. And I actually posted this on my stories. And I said in my stories, this is a glimmer. And I explained it's a small, like a micro moment where you feel this joy or you feel this calm or serene and you recognize it. So I had this experience. I kept going and I stood there for a little while and a minute, maybe less. And I went about my day. Okay. So that's two things. I'm going to give you one more thing because I believe things happen in threes. I also believe, as I'm sure you do too, if you're here, that when you start that positive momentum, when you start something positive, other positive things are behind them. So it's been a pretty challenging couple of months for a number of reasons. And I'm not going to get into that today because it's not really relevant. We all have challenging months. And so I've been a little not myself maybe or not as myself as I like to be. I mean everything's fine, everything's okay. Well, there we go. Didn't we talk about this? Why do we women in particular always want to say everything's fine, everything's fine. So everything's okay. I'm not catastrophizing. I'm just saying that I've been a little off, justifiably so. Anywho, so for a week, I didn't go to the post office. The reason why this is significant is because, as you know, I live in a small town. What you might not know is we don't get mail. We have to go to the post office to get our mail. I have a P.O. box at my post office, just like what was that show? Oh, I forget the name of the show. Oh, I can't believe I can't remember the show. Anyway, they used to go to the post office. And I love it actually, because it's how you get out. You see people. Sometimes I get a cup of coffee. I always bump into people that I know and want to talk to. Anyway, so I hadn't been to the post office in a week, which is rare for me. Usually I'm there at least 2 or 3 times a week. So I get to the post office and I get my mail and there's a card. And on the back of the card, over the flap that you seal down, the person who sent it to me had hand drawn a horseshoe crab. And if you look behind me, you can see I have a couple of horseshoe crabs over there. I love horseshoe crabs. I find them fascinating. I think that they are beautiful and I love them. And I do crafts with them. I've always been just drawn to these horseshoe crabs. The person that sent me this card also loves horseshoe crabs. So she had sketched this incredibly detailed horseshoe crab on the back. Like I thought it was a stamp at first or a sticker. I mean, it was really well done. And then I realized that I'm like, wow, she drew that. So that blew my mind. Then I opened the card. I might get a little emotional here, Podsters. So I opened the card and it was a beautiful card. It was a thank you card. And it was a thank you card that was unexpected. And it was about me listening and kindness and integrity. And kindness and integrity are two things that are extraordinarily important to me. So, a couple of things. First of all, the card had been there for a week and I didn't know that it was there. And it came at the absolute perfect time. Perfect time. Perfect time. And here's what kind of struck me. The woman who sent this to me, she picked out the card and the card was applicable. The image on the card was applicable. She wrote the letter. She drew the horseshoe on the outside. She made the connection with the horseshoe and also with, how she sees me, which was incredibly beautiful. And she stamped it and she brought it to the post office. She addressed it, she stamped it. She found my address, which it's not easy to find because it's just not easy to find where I live. Anyway, she found the address, stamped it, brought it to the post office. And let's just say the universe delivered it in exactly the right time. And I was so moved by this. To me, this was like a mega glimmer. And again, a couple of things could have happened there. Let's say I wasn't in that receiving mode of the glimmers, or I wasn't looking for glimmers. I would have seen the card and said, wow, that's an awesome horseshoe. I would have ripped it open. I would have looked at it and said, oh, that's really nice of her, and put it down and went on my way. Instead, I really soaked in this beautiful horseshoe crab, the message, the sentiment, and that, you know what? People are seeing me and they're seeing what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do. And people are appreciating me. And it made a huge impact on my entire weekend. Let's bring this back to why I think they're so important. So, because these glimmers calm us, regulate our nervous system, one of the things I read said it takes us out of survival mode. And that's really interesting because here in the Thrive Hive, we strive to do more than survive. Wow. Okay. Say that again. So I don't really like to use the word survive a lot because I think that's a little dramatic. And at the same time, if you're running on empty or if you're, if you're in it, whatever it is for you, that's survival mode to me. I don't like to admit it, but it is. I was in survival mode big time. And these glimmers and the 3 in a row, all within 1 week, I think, it got me in this state of being where, I mean, I'm not saying that nothing bothers me. I'm saying that it got me into a state where I was able to handle the firestorm that was right around the corner that I didn't know was right around the corner. So we all know life's is peaks and valleys, right? Sometimes you're in it and you're on top of your game and everything's great and everything's perfect and wow, life is good. And in a second that can change. And we all know it can because I'm fairly certain that it's happened to you. The glimmer it got me, I can only speak to me, got me in the state of when it changed, right? When I was in that emergency room, I had the mental bandwidth, if you will, or my nervous system was already like, okay, you got this. I didn't even need to talk myself into it. It just was. And that's not like me. Usually I'm extraordinarily hopped up at all times. And those of you that know me know that's incredibly true. This, I was just like, okay, all right, let's figure out what it is. Let's not catastrophize. We're going to just take the facts and then we're going to deal with them and then we're going to move on. So we have a choice, Podsters. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, what you look for, you will find. And if you haven't heard that expression before, it's a good one. I'm going to repeat it. What you look for, you will find. This to me is glass half open or glass half full. If you are negative, and I think if you're a negative person, you're probably not listening to this podcast, or if you are in a bad state, because we all get in bad states, and you start looking for triggers or you start obsessing about, what's happened or why does this always happen to me? Or I can't believe she said that to me. And who does she think she is? All these things. You are torquing yourself up for all the wrong reasons. You're seeking out all of these reasons to be torqued up. What you look for, you will find. So let's say your kid is acting like a jerk and getting you hopped up. Are you running around telling everybody about what a jerk your kid is acting like? Or let's say your boss was really not fair. Of course we want to talk about it and talk it out. And at the same time, when something like that happens to me, I try to look at how much energy am I giving this? Because the more energy I give it, the more oxygen I give it, the more it's going to grow. And I'm not saying just ignore it and blow it off. What I'm saying is in the context of what you look for, you will find. If you look for more and more reasons to feel wronged, or more and more reasons to get triggered, or more and more reasons to say, "Ugh, why does this always happen to me? What my life is, blah, blah, or whatever the case may be," you will find it. So on the flip side, what I'm talking about today is if you seek out the glimmer, you'll find it. And then you'll find more and more and more of these glimmers. And then you're surrounded by glimmers. And how cool is that? You're surrounded by these micro moments that bring you joy. And they're really cool. And I really want these for everyone. I really want this for everyone. So here's your homework, Podsters. See if you can find a glimmer. And if you find one, tell me. Please tell me. Take a screenshot or hit me up and send it to me on Instagram. Hit me up on my email, nancymedoff@nancymedoff.com. I'm very easy to find. Facebook. Some of you have my phone number. Text me. Let me know, because nothing brings me more joy, nothing, than when someone says, "Hey, Nance, I listened to your podcast and it was fire." By the way, I got a couple of those from last week. So please keep those coming. It keeps me going. It keeps me going. Those are my glimmers. Well, it's not really a glimmer. It's a compliment, which is awesome. So look for the glimmer. See if you can find a glimmer, and see if you could be the glimmer, like this person was that sent me that card. Because you know what, Podsters, at the end of the day, we're all we've got. And it's about human connection and being our best version of ourselves and finding joy in the everyday. And there's no better way to do that than to find a glimmer. So that's it for this week. What do I have? What do I have? What do I have? Come back next week. We're going to start the interviews soon. We're going to bring in our experts soon. If there's a topic that you want to hear about, let me know. If you have not joined the Thrive Hive community yet, the email community, it's free. There's a link in the show notes. Come on in. Welcome to the Hive. I will see you next week. And until then, go out there and thrive like you mean it. That's a wrap, Podsters. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Thrive Hive podcast. Hopefully, after listening today, you're feeling a little more fired up, a little inspired, or maybe a little more like yourself and like the person that you know you're meant to be. And if you loved today's episode, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag me. I love to see where and when our Thrive Hive is growing. And if you're thinking about someone who you think should really listen to this episode, send it her way, because we all deserve to go out and live that life we work so hard to build. Now, go thrive like you mean it.